Most people never question anything. They just inherit beliefs and call it truth. They follow the system, obey authority, chase money, worship blindly, and never stop to ask, why do I believe what I believe? But when you wake up, really wake up, the illusion starts to crumble. You begin to see how the world was never built for awareness. It was built for control. Religion, education, politics, media, all designed to keep you asleep, obedient, and predictable. And that's why spiritually awake people start questioning everything. They stop living on autopilot and start tearing down the lies that shaped their reality. In this video, we'll break down 5 brutal truths that the awakened see, the ones that make them question society, faith, success, and even morality itself. Because the truth doesn't comfort you, it shatters you first. If you're part of the few who refuse to sleep, hit subscribe and join the Guru Clan. Comment below. What's the first truth you questioned after awakening? Your words might awaken someone else. 1. The system was never built for the awake. The moment you start seeing beyond the surface, you stop belonging to the world that raised you. You look around and realize the system was never built to create thinkers. It was built to create followers. From the moment you were born, the program began. You were handed a name, a nationality, a religion, a language. And before you could even think for yourself, you were told what was right, what was wrong, and who you were supposed to be. You didn't choose your beliefs, they were installed. School taught you how to memorize, not how to think. You were rewarded for obedience, punished for curiosity. You learned to follow instructions, repeat information, and chase grades instead of wisdom. Every child is born with a wild, creative spark, but the system smothers it under standardized tests and conformity. The classroom becomes a factory, and the students become products stamped with approval. Then comes religion. The idea of the divine, once meant to liberate your spirit, becomes another cage. Instead of connecting you to truth, it often disconnects you from yourself. You're told that questioning is sin, that doubt is dangerous, and that faith means blind submission. But true spirituality was never about fear. It was about freedom. And when you finally begin to question, they call you lost. They say you're rebelling. But the truth is, you're awakening. You're starting to see that the same system that preaches morality profits from ignorance. The media feeds you distraction. The schools feed you obedience. The corporations feed you desire. Together, they build a reality where you're too busy chasing comfort to ever seek truth. You're given just enough freedom to feel free, but never enough to actually be it. The system doesn't want awareness. Awareness threatens control, because a mind that can see through illusion cannot be controlled by it. That's why society glorifies noise and mocks silence, because silence is where truth lives. Look closely and you'll see the pattern. They want you informed enough to work, but not wise enough to think. Entertained enough to stay numb, but not still enough to awaken. Connected online, but disconnected within. And when you begin to awaken, when you start seeing how everything is designed to keep you asleep, it feels lonely at first. You lose friends, certainty, even your sense of identity, because the moment you wake up, the dream world rejects you. But that rejection is proof you're evolving. You're no longer compatible with the illusions that once controlled you. The news no longer hypnotizes you. The politics no longer divide you. The crowd no longer seduces you. You stop fitting in, not because you're broken, but because you've outgrown the lie. The awakening is brutal because it destroys everything false before it rebuilds what's real. You start to realize the people who were praised were just the best-behaved slaves. The ones who questioned everything, they were the free ones all along. That's the paradox of awakening. It feels like falling apart, but it's really falling free. You'll be misunderstood. You'll be labeled arrogant, lost, or crazy. But those labels are proof you're touching a truth most people aren't ready to face. Because the system depends on your silence, and your awakening threatens its survival. The moment you reclaim your mind, you take back your life. You stop chasing validation and start seeking vision. You stop consuming and start creating. You stop living by rules and start living by truth. You don't belong to the system anymore, and that's the point. Because the awakened were never meant to fit in. They were meant to see. 2. Religion taught fear, not faith. When you awaken, you start noticing something most people never question. What they call faith is often just fear in disguise. From childhood, you were taught to obey rules and rituals, to believe in a system of morality and reward, to pray without question. You were told that salvation, blessing, or favor depended on your compliance, your willingness to bend your will to invisible authorities. But as the spiritually awake, something inside refuses to submit blindly. You begin to see that religion in many forms is less about divine connection and more about control. It creates boundaries where there should be freedom. It teaches guilt instead of growth, punishment instead of guidance, obligation instead of love. Fear becomes the leash that keeps you obedient, and anyone who questions it is labeled as dangerous, lost, or sinful. You notice the paradox. The same teachings that claim to liberate the soul often imprison it. People follow God, or what they think is God, but they are really following men's interpretation of God. Clergy, institutions, and doctrines promise safety and purpose, but they deliver conformity. And once you start seeing through this, you realize that true spirituality is never about obedience. It is never about guilt or shame. It is about liberation, clarity, and alignment with a truth that exists beyond human rules. This awakening shakes the foundation of everything you were taught. Suddenly, prayer is no longer a set of memorized words. Worship is no longer an act of submission to tradition. Morality is no longer dictated by fear of punishment or reward. You start to seek direct understanding, a personal connection to the divine, to the universe, to your own soul, without intermediaries. And as you strip away the layers of fear, guilt, and ritual, society begins to label you as rebellious. Friends and family may question your choices. Leaders may accuse you of heresy or arrogance. You are misunderstood because the awakened mind cannot be contained within walls built by men. It cannot be pacified by dogma or ritual. You begin to understand that faith and fear are often presented as interchangeable, but they are polar opposites. Faith is courageous. Faith is freeing. Faith requires the courage to look beyond what is comfortable, beyond what is dictated, and to seek truth directly. Fear, on the other hand, is constrictive. It demands obedience, silences questions, and punishes curiosity. The spiritually awake realize that they have been conditioned to confuse the two. They see that much of organized religion thrives on fear. Fear of damnation, fear of divine anger, because fear ensures control. The moment someone stops fearing, they stop obeying. And when obedience ceases, the system loses its power. This realization is radical. It changes how you pray, how you live, and how you see the world. You no longer seek permission to exist in truth. You no longer rely on rituals to justify your life. You begin to define your own connection with the divine, guided by your own understanding, intuition, and experience. And that is why the spiritually awake are always misunderstood, because their spirituality is raw, direct, and uncompromising. You start questioning, why do rituals dominate belief? Why does morality hinge on fear? Why are so many people more concerned with appearances than essence? The awakened begin to reject external validation and embrace inner truth. They stop performing for approval and start acting from conviction. They stop praying to fit in and start listening to the voice within. Eventually, this journey leads to liberation. You realize that the divine has never been confined to a building, a book, or a set of rules. True spirituality has always been about presence, awareness, and courage, about living in alignment with your highest self and the universal order. Fear is merely a tool used to keep the masses asleep. Faith is the awakening itself, and the awakened walk a path that is lonely yet profound. They are constantly challenging, constantly growing, and constantly redefining their understanding of truth. They are rebels not because they wish to oppose, but because they refuse to submit to illusions. They are awake because they seek liberation, not comfort. In the end, the spiritually awake discover a truth that few ever reach. The divine was never about fear. It was about freedom. The system may have taught fear, but faith, real faith, teaches you to rise above it. 3. Morality is just social programming. When you awaken, the rules you were raised to follow begin to feel hollow. What you were taught was right or wrong starts to unravel the moment you notice the world isn't built on justice or virtue. It's built on power. Morality, as you once understood it, is not a universal truth. It is a carefully constructed tool, wielded to shape behavior, maintain order, and protect those who hold control. From birth, society programs you with moral codes. Don't steal, don't lie, respect authority, obey the rules. On the surface, they seem logical, even necessary. But the awakened see the layers beneath. Morality changes depending on who is in power. Actions that are condemned in one era are celebrated in another. What was a crime yesterday can become law tomorrow. Morality is fluid, and it is fluid for a reason. It keeps people predictable and pliable. Consider history. Wars justified as righteous. Leaders condemned or revered, depending on who tells the story. Entire populations shamed into submission while their rulers prosper. Those in control define the rules, and the rules define the obedient. The awakened start to see that morality isn't about good or evil. It's about maintaining the illusion that order is natural, that compliance is virtuous, and that questioning is wrong. This realization is terrifying at first. Everything you believed about right and wrong, about sin and virtue, justice and injustice, begins to feel like a mask covering hidden agendas. You realize the crowd applauds behaviors dictated by fear and reward, not by conscience. You realize most people live to please, to fit, to avoid condemnation. And that is exactly the point. Obedience is the engine of control. As the awakened mind observes this, something profound occurs. The need to please dissolves. You no longer measure your life by other people's rules. You no longer obey out of fear, shame, or expectation. You start living according to your own compass, your own perception of truth, your own understanding of right and wrong. And this is the moment the world begins to label you dangerous. You notice it in every interaction. When you refuse to conform to groupthink, friends become distant. When you question moral absolutes, society calls you immoral. When you act in alignment with your own truth, you are judged for arrogance. But the awakened understand being labeled dangerous is a badge of clarity. It means you are no longer part of the programming. You are awake. The awakening to morality as social programming also brings liberation. You begin to see the invisible chains holding everyone in place. Guilt, obligation, approval, shame, these were never moral imperatives. They were tools of control. Once you recognize them, you stop acting from fear and start acting from conviction. Decisions no longer rely on what others deem acceptable. Your life becomes a measure of alignment, not compliance. This awakening also reveals the subtlety of control. It is not always overt. It hides behind culture, tradition, religion, education, and media. A society may punish one act today and reward it tomorrow, and the crowd will cheer either way without recognizing the shift. The awakened notice this pattern. They notice the programming in every moral debate, every political slogan, every cultural expectation. And this awareness is a knife that cuts through illusion. But the truth is uncomfortable. When morality is revealed as programming, the world seems hollow. You see people trapped by invisible rules, afraid to step outside the boundaries, terrified of judgment. And yet, the awakened do not despair. Instead, they embrace clarity. They understand that real morality is not handed down. It is discovered. It is lived. It emerges from awareness, courage, and alignment with universal principles that transcend culture, law, and opinion. And so the awakened begin to live differently. They stop seeking approval. They stop following trends. They stop asking permission to act according to their inner truth. They do not act from fear, obligation, or manipulation. They act from clarity, from integrity, from freedom. Morality is no longer a chain. It is a mirror. It reflects your alignment with truth, not with society's agenda. And in that reflection, the awakened find power, purpose, and peace. Because once you see morality as programming, you stop living to please the world. You start living to honor your own vision of truth. 4. Success was a trap all along. From the earliest age, you were told that success is the ultimate goal, that wealth equals happiness, status equals respect, and achievement equals meaning. The world trained you to chase this illusion tirelessly. Grades, promotions, likes, followers, awards, recognition. Every culture, every institution, every advertisement whispers the same message. If you make it, you will be fulfilled. But awakening reveals the trap. You come to see that success, as it is taught, does not feed the soul. It feeds the ego, the desire for approval, and the illusion of significance. It is a system designed not to liberate, but to keep you running on a wheel of endless craving. You realize that no matter how much you accumulate, there is always more to chase, more to buy, more to prove, more to display. Satisfaction is never permanent because the system depends on your constant longing. The spiritually awake begin to notice the hollowness behind applause and accolades. Fame is fleeting. Money is a tool, not a purpose. Validation from others is unreliable and superficial. You start to understand that what everyone calls success is largely external, a mirror held up by society that reflects not your inner worth, but your ability to conform to its desires. And this realization is dangerous, not for you, but for the system. Because once you stop chasing the illusion of making it, you stop participating in the mechanism that fuels consumerism, competition, and control. The awakened do not serve the treadmill. They serve themselves. They stop measuring life in numbers, likes, or titles, and start measuring life in presence, growth, and mastery of being. Mastery of being is radical. It is silent, unseen, and incomprehensible to those still trapped in the chase. While others are consumed by envy, comparison, and ambition, the awakened are free. Their success is internal. Calm in the face of chaos, clarity in the midst of distraction, and power in the absence of recognition. Wealth may come, or it may not. Status may arrive, or it may fade. But the awakened know that true fulfillment is not contingent on these illusions. This awakening also forces a reckoning with identity. For so long you were told that your worth was tied to what you produced, what you earned, and how others perceived you. When you awaken, you see the lie. You are not your job, your paycheck, or your accolades. You are not defined by the praise or criticism of others. You are defined by presence, by consciousness, by the alignment of thought, word, and action. The trap of success also teaches a deeper lesson. Most people never notice it. They are too busy running, striving, and comparing. They mistake exhaustion for effort, distraction for purpose, and consumption for achievement. They spend lifetimes chasing a horizon that moves farther away with every step. And yet society calls this a life well lived. The spiritually awake are different. They stop reacting to the world's definition of success. They stop measuring themselves against the crowd. They cultivate self-mastery, understanding that presence and awareness are the only true measures of achievement. They find richness in solitude, wisdom in reflection, and power in stillness. They find fulfillment not in acquiring, but in being. And this threatens everything. The system depends on chasing, craving, and comparing. It thrives on distraction, insecurity, and endless desire. When you step off the treadmill, when you reject the illusion of making it, you break the cycle. You are a silent disruptor, living proof that life does not have to be a race for approval or a competition for validation. In this awakening, there is clarity. The world will continue to glorify wealth, fame, and recognition. It will continue to seduce, manipulate, and distract. But you no longer participate. You have discovered the higher game. You have learned that fulfillment is internal, presence is power, and freedom is priceless. The awakened understand something few ever do. Success is not a destination. It is a trap designed to keep the masses asleep. The real victory is the mastery of being, the courage to rise above illusion, the strength to follow truth, and the discipline to remain aligned with yourself, regardless of the world's definitions. Because once you awaken, you see that life is never about making it. Life is about being it. 5. Truth doesn't need permission. The spiritually awake live in a world of questions. They question authority, traditions, social norms, and even the beliefs they once held themselves. This is not rebellion for rebellion's sake. It is evolution. It is the natural consequence of awakening, the refusal to accept what is convenient, popular, or comfortable as absolute. The world has trained most people to seek approval. We are taught that conformity is safe, that compliance is virtue, that acceptance is essential for survival. From school to family, from media to government, the crowd conditions us to look outward for validation rather than inward for truth. Most people live in fear of judgment, not from reality itself, but from the collective opinion of those around them. But the awakened understand something radical. Truth is not democratic. It does not depend on majority opinion, cultural approval, or social validation. Truth exists independently of belief. You do not have to convince anyone else of it. You do not need permission to recognize it. And the moment you internalize this, you start living differently. You begin to see the world not as a place of absolutes dictated by authority, but as a place of perspectives, many of which are limited, biased, or designed to maintain control. Governments, religions, institutions, even entire societies will try to dictate what is true, what is moral, what is acceptable. And yet, none of these dictate reality. They only dictate compliance. This awareness is terrifying for those still asleep. The awakened are often labeled as dangerous, arrogant, or radical, simply because they refuse to bow to collective illusions. They are feared because they cannot be manipulated. They cannot be persuaded to conform. They stand as living proof that the structures designed to maintain control are built on belief, not on truth itself. The awakening to this principle is both liberating and isolating. You stop seeking permission to think, speak, or act according to what you know to be true. You stop asking for validation from the crowd. You stop measuring yourself against the standards of the majority. Instead, your compass becomes internal. Your authority becomes self-derived. Your power comes from alignment, not approval. The awakened begin to understand that growth always requires courage. Questioning tradition is uncomfortable. Questioning authority is risky. Questioning your own beliefs is humbling. But without these questions, evolution is impossible. Without challenging the familiar, you remain trapped in illusion. And so the awakened persist, not out of defiance, but out of necessity. Truth is not negotiable. It cannot be voted on, legislated, or bought. It exists whether anyone acknowledges it or not. And the awakened are the first to realize this. They see that most of society confuses comfort for truth, popularity for validity, and consensus for reality. And in recognizing this, they also see the fragility of systems built on collective delusion. To live without permission is to live without fear of the majority's judgment. It is to act according to principles that resonate with reality rather than popularity. It is to speak, create, and embody truths that others may not yet comprehend, and often truths that they will resist violently. The awakened become outsiders, misunderstood not because they are wrong, but because they are too right for the comfort of those still asleep. This path is not easy. It demands solitude, clarity, and the willingness to endure criticism, doubt, and alienation. But it is also profoundly empowering. When you realize that truth does not require permission, you reclaim freedom, the freedom to think, to act, and to exist in alignment with what is real. And in this alignment, the awakened find peace. They understand that being misunderstood is not failure. It is proof of insight. They know that standing alone in truth is not weakness. It is strength. They live in harmony with reality, unshaken by opinion, unbound by convention, and untouched by the illusions of the crowd. Ultimately, the spiritually awake know this. The world may reject them, ridicule them, or fear them, but truth remains unshaken. It does not need the consent of the majority. It does not need validation. It does not need defense. And the awakened, having seen it clearly, live in accordance with it, quietly, courageously, and completely free. Because the ultimate power of awakening is simple: to recognize truth, to live it, and to know that it requires no permission from anyone. Awakening is not comfortable. It shakes your foundations, tears apart illusions, and forces you to confront the truths most people never dare to face. You've seen it in the system, in religion, in morality, in success, and in the very nature of truth itself. The world was never built to make you awake. But this is the gift. The spiritually awake see clearly, act courageously, and live intentionally. They no longer chase approval, obey blindly, or seek validation from a crowd asleep in illusion. Instead, they follow their own compass, align with reality, and embody the truths that others fear to acknowledge. If this video resonated, if you felt the weight of awakening and the clarity it brings, then you are not alone. There is a community of seekers, rebels, and awakened minds ready to walk this path with you. Subscribe to join the Guru Clan and step into a life of clarity and mastery. Comment below. What's the first truth you started questioning when you woke up? Share your experience. Your words might awaken someone else today. Remember, awakening is not a phase. It is a transformation. And once you see, there's no turning back.